Good evening and thanks for joining us on Nationwide today on the network service of the NTA. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Thank you so much for joining us. Now let's begin with the Judiciary. The Supreme Court has unanimously dismissed the application for the review of the decision sacking former governor of Imo State, Emeka Ihedioha, and declaring Hope Uzodimma of the All Progressives Congress as the winner of the March 9, 2019 governorship election. In a judgment read by Justice Olukayode Ariwola, the 7-member panel held that Ihedioha and People's Democratic Party's application lacked merit, saying the Supreme Court judgment is finality. With that, All Progressives Party's Hope Uzodimma remains the governor of Imo State, having been declared as such by the Supreme Court in its judgments earlier. Still on the Judiciary, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has dismissed an application by former Boko Haram spokesman Alexander Konduga seeking 5 million naira in compensation for his detention in the custody of the Department of State Security, DSS. Justice Anwuli Chikere ruled that he was kept in custody for his protection. Olabode Arewa tells us more.
Delivering judgment on the fundamental rights enforcement suit filed by Alexander Konduga against the DSS and the federal government, the court held that the applicant's detention by the DSS was not illegal, since he himself had deposed to an affidavit that was attacked by a mob in 2016. Justice Anwuli Chikere held that keeping Konduga in protective custody by a security agency did not constitute a crime. The court accordingly dismissed his application.
We are going to look at the ruling, study the intricacies of the ruling, and know the outcome, the step we are going to take next.
The court decided that his detention was not illegal and that he was aware of why he was being detained. That's just what the court held.
The applicant had dragged the DSS and the Attorney General of the Federation to court, claiming he was detained for 3 additional years after he had served a 3-year prison term for criminal intimidation. He said although the government had claimed that it wanted to use him as a witness in a terrorism case against some individuals, he was never called to testify. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
Now, to containing the coronavirus, the House of Representatives has passed a resolution calling on the federal government to convene an emergency National Council of Health meeting to strategize on tackling coronavirus in Nigeria. The House also urged that more emergency funds should be released for effective intervention and management of the virus. Those were among resolutions reached by House members following a motion of urgent emergency from Representative Onyem Idem on the need for emergency response to tackle coronavirus in Nigeria. The lawmakers also passed a resolution for the National Assembly to suspend plenary for 2 weeks as a preventive measure against the spread of the infectious disease. Meanwhile, a bill seeking to prohibit and criminalize casualization of workers after 6 months of engagement by employers in Nigeria, sponsored by Representative Wale Raji, went through second reading. And still on containing coronavirus, the Bioresources Institute of Nigeria, an independent biosciences research and development organization, has come up with claims that it has an experimental lead compound that was identified and patented 5 years ago as a possible treatment for the emerging novel coronavirus, now codenamed COVID-19. The institute, which is soliciting support from Nigerian government to complete the development of the drug, said it is willing to make available the lead compounds which contains the active molecule for positive evaluation by other laboratories with appropriate testing facility both in Nigeria and overseas. It will be recalled that when Ebola virus infection broke out in 2014, the research group had experimental lead compound that was identified 15 years earlier in 1999. And now the group, led by Professor Maurice Hill, said it has concluded arrangements with the antiviral program of the U.S. National Institute of Health to subject the compound to bioassays against the Wuhan coronavirus, also known as COVID-19.
Virus. As of now, they are trying to set up the assay so that we can then see whether this particular one, which as I say, is an inferior virus to SARS, that the program will be able to go on. We're also considering instead of actually developing one of the products, to develop the three of them together and have them to be the first broad-spectrum antiviral agent coming out from Nigeria.
Both the Federal Ministries of Science and Technology as well as Health have expressed readiness to give full support to ensure the project succeeds.
We already have a committee of the best minds in this area, toxicology, pharmacy, pharmacognosy, all the drug-related areas of study. So I'm happy that this compound will also be made available, since it's already patented, made available to them, so that for them to certify, because for us, this is at the research stage, and once we prove that, yes, they will advise us. If they advise us that, yes, this is the way to find this treatment, this is the way to find a better way of managing any of these diseases, we'll be very happy to give all that support.
Depends on who is handling what and at what point in time. But I think the most important thing is to say that we're very impressed with what we have done so far, and the least we can do is to support you and collaborate with you so that we'll take it to the promised land. Thank you.
Still on the coronavirus, following last week's first confirmed case of coronavirus in Lagos and the worrying statistics indicating a global death toll, nearly 3,000 from the disease, stringent measures have been put in place by Borno State government to ensure the virus does not spread into urban cities and rural areas. Yagumsu Bukar reports.
COVID-19 has led to unprecedented efforts to isolate, control, and halt the spread of the virus that has now infected more than 73,000 people, causing at least 3,000 deaths globally since December 2019. To curtail the menace of the spread of the highly infectious coronavirus, Borno State Commissioner of Health, Dr. Saliu Aliu Koyobra, revealed that government has earmarked a number of health educators to create awareness on improvement of hygiene at IDP camps, calling on people not to panic as government is on top of the situation.
Our target, and I think this is our joker, is to ensure that those who are likely to have contact with the IDP camps are the expatriates coming in. And once we're able to screen it properly at the airports, we believe that we will be able to pick this to a larger extent without even getting it into town.
Federal Ministry of Health, on the other hand, through Port Health Services, is at hand to screen passengers coming into the state.
Anybody found above 37 degrees centigrade, that person is a suspect.
Schools are not also left behind in ensuring measures are taken against the virus through compulsory hand washing, even at the entrance of its premises. Training of health personnel, in addition to sensitization campaign among the populace on personal hygiene, will no doubt assist in ensuring people do not contact the virus or spread it in areas where it has manifested. In Maiduguri, Yagum Subkar, NTA News.
And we're not done with the containment of the coronavirus, as we now join Hingino John Adams in Lagos for an update. Hello, Hingino.
Elizabeth, it's good to see you. The Lagos State government is interacting with local government chairmen and other community stakeholders to heighten campaigns against coronavirus at the grassroots. Nosa Osula has details.
Health authorities in the country are ramping up efforts to detect and contain new coronavirus after the confirmation of its first case. The Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, who addressed journalists after the meeting, explained that the purpose of the meeting is to disseminate information to stakeholders so as to further create awareness on the virus.
We don't want to give the virus the opportunity to spread from person to person, which would then be the beginning of an outbreak. So we're trying our best to break the outbreak opportunity.
According to the Commissioner, the state government is intensifying efforts to establish some of the contacts of the index patients disclosing that 2 of the contacts from Ogun State that were tested for the virus were negative.
We are very much in the lookout. Our index of suspicion is very high. We've alerted all our medical facilities, both public and private, to be very cautious about anybody who presents with fever, with cough, with cold, with difficulty breathing, with diarrhea, or with body pains.
Professor Abayomi urged residents to desist from spreading fake news on the virus, especially on any platform on social media. In Lagos, Nusa Osula, NTA News.
Away from COVID-19 now. The aviation industry in Nigeria has not experienced any major air mishap in the last few years. This key players promise to sustain as they intensify their preparedness to handle emergency situation. Michael Olale reports on a full-scale mock emergency rescue operation held at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, where they renewed this commitment.
The loud blaring sound of the siren is an indication of an emergency situation, but it is actually a fictitious mishap involving an Airbus passenger airline with 120 persons on board. The aircraft crash landed in waterlogged terrain section of the airport, in which 5 casualties were recorded and other minor injuries were treated.
The response was okay. At the EOC, 80% of the agencies responded on time, and at the scene, as they come, we record it. The response time is supposed to be just within 3 minutes, which we actually met.
To the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, the simulation exercise is beyond assessing the readiness of all emergency respondents to react to real-life situation, but an organizational requirement of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, for aerodrome.
This airport is categorized as 9, and by Cat 9, there are certain requirements and standards that you need to meet in terms of vehicles, in terms of personnel, in terms of equipment. Here, we are expected to have 3 major fire tenders.
The mandate before the various agencies that participated in the mock exercise is to deeply analyze observable lapses with a view to sustaining safety measures in the aviation industry. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NT News.
Let's now talk electoral matters. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says a review process of a draft of the nation's Electoral Act Amendment Bill that will include stringent sanctions against violations, increase citizens' confidence in the electoral process, and deployment of technology in elections, among others, is in the making. The INEC's chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, stated this while declaring open a retreat on the review of the electoral framework in Lagos. Tunde Saiki has details.
INEC's chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said the review process is premised on the draft of the bill from the Senate Committee on INEC, received by the Commission late last year, which had earlier been presented to the Executive for assent before the 2019 general elections. He said the Commission, having listened to the views of stakeholders and Nigerians, is fashioning out a more enduring legal framework that will address the critical challenges confronting the nation's electoral process.
4, reducing the cost of elections. 5, curbing the incidence of violence and sundry malpractices in the electoral process.
The Commission's Director of Legal Services, Oluwatoyin Babalola, and other development partners say the retreat will serve as the final stage to harvesting an amendment to the Electoral Act 2010, led for presentation to the National Assembly.
To strengthen the process of voter education, the use of technology in election, registration and regulation of political parties, conduct of elections, and election dispute adjudication.
The electoral legislation also determines what level of transparency there is in the electoral process.
And the legal framework for the conduct of election is undoubtedly the foundation and credibility by which election can be determined.
The retreat is also expected to give opportunities to INEC's resident electoral commissioners and directors who are responsible for formulation of policies, planning, and conduct of elections to bear their weight of experiences. Amendment for credible elections. In Lagos, NTA News.
That's from Lagos. We now take a commercial break. Nationwide continues in Abuja with 11.
Thanks for staying with us. It's the third day of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria holding in Abuja. As usual, critical social issues are bordering on the development of the country, such as peace, security, unity, poverty, and the role of the church formed the major focus. The theme of the conference is the Word of God, a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
Clergies at the event, which includes the Archbishop of Abuja, Ignatius Kaigama, stressed on the need for Nigerians to have cordial relationship with God and a peaceful coexistence among one another. 20 days in notes which defeat evil and extremism. As he says, there's the need to also work together to eradicate poverty, diseases, unnecessary deaths, and other issues affecting the people.
Millions are displaced and we don't seem to care. Something is wrong. We haven't yet cultivated that spirit of patriotism, that spirit of oneness. We may declare we are one Nigeria, but many things divide us. Ethnic interests, political interests, and worst of all, religious interests. Something must be done to repair the damage that has been done.
The Archbishop observes that so much is happening, calling for more patriotic Nigerians to come forth and help address these issues. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was among dignitaries that graced the opening mass of the first 2020 plenary meeting and a dinner at the end of the second day. His presence was described as a demonstration of his love and solidarity at all times with Nigerians, including the church.
When you are with us like this and we are suffering, we feel we are together. But when there is a gap, we feel there is an insensitivity. We need to have access to our leaders. We need to have access to the president, to the vice president, to the ministers. They need to be closer to the people that elected them.
Archbishop Kagama said the habit of condemning political leaders and people in positions of authority was harmful to society and inimical to its growth. He advised the people to always pray for those in position of power and the country. The conference is scheduled to end on Thursday this week. In Abuja, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Let's now talk electrification. The Senate is considering a bill that seeks to repeal the Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection Act of 1995. The bill, which has been passed through second reading, is aimed at reenacting the Nuclear Safety, Security and Safeguard Act and also re-establish the Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Authority. The bill, when passed, will provide the legal framework for Nigeria to begin to generate electricity through nuclear sources as practiced by some countries of the world. The bill explained that the existing law on Nigeria's nuclear energy does not provide for the regulation of the nuclear power program and nuclear emergency preparedness and does not adequately deal with the growing challenge of radioactive waste management. The bill also seeks to provide for the establishment of the Nigerian Nuclear Security Committee and the National Research Institute for Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection. Senate also passed the Nigerian Army University Bill Establishment Bill through second reading. Now to security. The Office of the National Security Advisor to the President and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture have agreed to work together towards ensuring that terrorists are denied access to fertilizer used in making explosives. This is coming as the Minister of Agriculture presents to the public a new policy guideline for production, marketing and distribution of fertilizer. Musa Babalu has details.
Fertilizer are commonly used to boost soil fertility to enhance crop yield. The input, however, has in it ingredients that can be used in the manufacturing of explosives. There are claims that Boko Haram terrorists are using fertilizer, especially NPK, to make explosives which they use to attack communities, especially in northeast Nigeria. The situation occasioned the ban placed on the movement of fertilizer in northeast in 2015.
The issue of fertilizer has become one of the source of our problem in the security architecture in this country. And I would like to challenge, especially the blenders, to turn their attention now to to the production of wet blend fertilizer that will be free of explosive.
We are making progress in research to ensure that some fertilizers that are available to us cannot be utilized by the terrorists to make their homemade bombs.
The National Fertilizer Quality Control Act, recently passed into law by the National Assembly and assented to by the President, is expected to address all issues relating to diversion and proliferation of fake and substandard fertilizer.
The activities of the fake fertilizer operators greatly affected the investment of the genuine fertilizer businessmen, thereby dampening the rate of real investment in the Nigerian fertilizer industry.
When it comes to the committee that will set up for the implementation, the office of the NYSC should be part of that committee to ensure that whatever is done professionally.
The Act provides 5 years jail term for any person found guilty of violating the law without any option of fine. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Into sanitation, it is now official Nigeria is the #1 in open defecation in the world. And to turn the tide now, the Ministry of Water Resources requires more purposeful collective action. That is why the Minister, Sulaiman Adama, wants the media to take ownership of the implementation of the Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Initiative WASH as he met with news executives in the electorate media in Abuja. Musbat Danwahab reports.
The unwanted has become a reality. Now, how to shed the shameful toga of being the first in open defecation is a critical national assignment for the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. Nigeria's government has seen it coming, and President Muhammadu Buhari has followed up the declaration of state of emergency on the sector with the Executive Order 9 to give more impetus to various policies and programs to stop about 47 million Nigerians still practicing open defecation. But it is an assignment that is said to require a more aggressive campaign, as 20 of the 774 LGAs are yet open defecation free. The ministry has now identified these news gatekeepers as key partners in the actualization.
Partnership, collaboration and advocacy with all stakeholders is required to ensure that Nigeria attains open defecation free status by the target year of 2025, and that we're able to achieve sustainable goals, target 6 for water, sanitation and hygiene, with leaving no one behind by the year 2030.
Already on board, corporate bodies under the organized private sector in WASH say they have initiated various measures in the quest for an open defecation-free Nigeria, including the initiative to get about 2 million Nigerians in diaspora to adopt the construction of a toilet each.
In the next few months, we plan to start the training of people in local communities under people's law management. In this regard, it is my priority to ensure that we build on local capacity and create an effective sanitation value chain.
And now, the media is not only to tell the news, but equally become advocates for the WASH sector, most importantly to end open defecation by 2025. In Abuja, Musbau and Wahab, NT News.
And out to tourism, all is now set for the Argungu International Fishing and Cultural Festival 2020, 60th in its series, this year's edition. The Director General, Nigerian Automotive Design and Development Council, disclosed that Nigerian-made cars will undertake a car racing exercise to give it an international coloration.
This race would be with vehicles assembled in Nigeria. There will be grand fishing, carpentry display, agri show, cultural display, catapulting, archery, traditional boxing and wrestling.
There was a decoration of the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, by the Emir of Argungu, Samaila Mohammed Mera, as Kakakin Kebi, in recognition of his efforts in making the event an international festival.
festivals nationwide. This explains why we are leaving no stone unturned in ensuring the maximum publicity for the forthcoming festival.
There were displays of rich cultural dances. Still on tourism, lack of a national art center, problem of managing art collections, and the challenge of art forgeries were highlighted as major issues affecting the development of art in Nigeria. At the 12th edition of the National Gallery of Art's annual lecture in Abuja, experts seek for ways of addressing these issues in the development of contemporary art in Nigeria. Oinaya Kaloka reports.
The Nigerian contemporary art scene, practitioners believe, draw a lot of imagination and knowledge from tradition. The 12th series of the National Gallery of Art annual lecture, last held in 2012, is an opportunity for the young, aspiring and accomplished artists to interact. Exploring ways of projecting the country's rich cultural heritage was pointed out.
You must learn to use what God has given to you to make the best use of it. And again, to all of you Nigerians, be proud of who you are. Be proud of your culture. Speak your language.
With the theme, Recurrent Issues in the Development of Contemporary Nigerian Arts, guest lecturer Professor Jerry Buhari focused on some issues challenging the development of art in Nigeria.
Without a national edifice, it will be difficult to build a coherent collection, a coherent national collection.
The benefit is that Nigeria artworks will have a space for general public to view and appreciate. And what NGA is doing will be noticed.
The annual National Gallery of Art lecture is designed to advance the course of knowledge in the art world. Oyinaya Kalo Oka, NTA News.
To security now, troops of Operation Lafia Dole deployed to Baga local government have rescued 9 women and 16 children. A statement by the Nigerian Army Operations Media Coordinator Colonel Aminu Ilyasu indicates that the victims were liberated during a clearance operation in Bula, Gudu and Safa villages of Baga, Borno State. Similarly to Chadians, alleged members of Boko Haram terrorist group have surrendered to troops of Army Super Camp 2 in Borno State. Colonel Ilyasu notes that the suspects revealed that intense artillery bombardments and ground assault on their camp forced them to escape and confirmed the presence of foreign mercenaries amongst them. Several criminals were arrested, others killed in combat, and arms were also recovered. And still talking security, the rebuilding process of crisis-ravaged areas of northeastern region of Nigeria is making remarkable impacts through the 4 components transformation programs by the British Council. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that the initiative is raising appropriate platforms for social inclusion and constructive engagements of victims in the geopolitical zone.
The outcries of the northeastern region for a stable and progressive society remains a major concern in the wake of the deadly Boko Haram insurgents. This perhaps is the reason for the involvement of the British Council on 3-component engagement frameworks to restore permanent peace, managing conflict in Northeast, rule of law and anti-corruption, an agent for citizen-driven transformation program as strategic implementation models.
The Managing Conflict in Nigeria program is working in the 3 northeast states, in Yobe, Adamawa and Borno, and the ACT program is working across Nigeria generally, but it's working with civil society organizations.
The British Council is approaching more solutions in the area of psychosocial and economic support, legal reforms and the administration of criminal justice law, and reintegration through government and stakeholders.
The program is support to the efforts of the Nigerian government to manage issues of conflict in the northeast.
At the moment, our projection is about 20 civil society organizations in each of these states. And then we also move to other geographical locations in Nigeria.
Of the victims. So we are beginning to bring up new issues that people have not been dealing with in the past.
Participants who were drawn from the media proposed an elaborate collaboration with relevant organs to assist civil society organizations with information to fully secure the Northeast. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Let's now join Tamara Ibiwe live from the Moshood Abiola Stadium, Abuja, for more on NYSC Games. Hello, Tamara.
Good to see you, Elizabeth. At 10 o'clock this
hello, Tamara.
At 10 o'clock this morning, the training pitch of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium came alive as core members from 21 states of the Federation converged for the 2019 edition of the NYSC Sports and Cultural Festival. Well, a match has just gone down between Team Enugu and Team Osun State. Well, we have the Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General Shuaibu Ibrahim, is here to tell us a few things about the fiesta. Sir, what are your expectations?
You know, the fiesta is an opportunity for us to showcase the potentials of our core members. We see it also an opportunity for the sport ministry, and also those in the entertainment industry to come scout for the best, and then see how these core members at the end of their service here will be experts in the field and then contribute their quota to the development of the country, and also secure employment opportunity for that process. It's not just sports alone. We'll have a cultural and drama group, and I just watched Adamawa, Kano, Cross River, Plateau, and so on. It was quite excellent. I can assure you we are going to have superstars from these core members, and most of the people from the entertainment industry who came to watch the display of these core members were highly impressed.
It's always a delight to bring core members together. How do you feel about this?
It's one of the ideals of the NYSC that we want the core members to interact in the process. Cohesion, integration, and unity is promoted amongst them, and that's the essence of this festival.
And your word to the competing core members?
Just as I mentioned this morning to my address to the core members, I said the essence is what to promote the unity and then identify talents amongst them, so that it shouldn't be a do or die affair. It should be a healthy competition and let the best win. And then in the process, we continue to promote our unity and understanding amongst our core members and Nigerians generally.
Thank you, sir. It's nice talking to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, the competition is not all about peace and integration alone. Core members can also find their life partners in Abuja. Just to let you know that the third place match in volleyball and football will get underway tomorrow. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Thank you very much. You're watching Nationwide. Time now to take another break. More reports ahead when we return. Glad to know you're still there. Now, to further secure the country from the importation of arms and other contraband, the joint operations of different units of the Nigerian Customs Service have intercepted 49 trucks and one bus loaded with dates and tiger nuts heading to various destinations within Nigeria. Show Adamu reports that the trucks, which took up from Jibia town, were intercepted in Katsina and are currently undergoing fiscal examination to ascertain their contents.
The interceptions were made by the Customs Federal Operations Unit, Katsina Command of the Service, the Strike Force, and the National Border Drill Operatives. At a joint press conference, coordinator of the Sector 4 unit of the National Border Drill, Comptroller Aliyu Alhaji Muhammad, said both tiger nuts and dates were not among contraband goods in Nigeria. He explained that with the ongoing partial closure of the nation's land borders, there was the need for effective inspection of the trucks to avoid taking chances.
We are suspecting something might be inside. It may be, it may not be, but investigation or examination will reveal the fact. So we are now on the process of examination.
Customs Controller in charge of the federal operations covering Northwest, Mustapha Mohammed Sarkin Kebbi, said the trucks will be handed over to the owners as soon as they are cleared, since they were not smuggled into the country.
We saw the volume, about 51 trucks coming in. Naturally, it will arouse our curiosity on why these things are coming in.
Leader of the strike force, Comptroller Mohammed Salisu Shuaibu, called for the understanding of the public on their operations and warned that the service was repositioned more than ever to discharge its duties within the ambit of the law.
We have done the operation successfully without any casualty. The level of synergy, cooperation and collaboration is at its peak, and that is why we are leaving no stone unturned to ensure that policies of government are carried out to the letter.
Representatives of the debt traders and rice farmers associations who were present at the scene of the physical inspection pledged to cooperate with the authorities in the fight against smuggling to stimulate the country's economy. In Katsina, Shehu Adamu, NTA News.
To road safety now, the Central Business District Unit Command of the Federal Road Safety Corps is to conduct free vehicle safety check from 4th to 7th of March 2020. Wuse 2, Maitama District, Asoko, Garki and Garki 2 are areas to be covered. The exercise would run between 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day as part of efforts by the Corps in ensuring that vehicles on Nigerian roads meet the minimum safety standards, in line with the Pillar 2 of the United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety, which is safer vehicles and mobility. Specific focus of the vehicle check will be on vehicle windshields, tires, rear view mirrors, and lighting systems. Other areas of concern are spare tires, jacks, and wheel spanners, fire extinguishers, breakdown warning signs, and water. Officers and men of the Corps are advised not to book any traffic offender throughout the period of the exercise, but follow-up calls may be made to defaulters to remind them of the need to effect the necessary repairs. And Jenny Bassi is standing by in our Port Harcourt studio for more reports on Nationwide. Hello, Jenny.
Much, Elizabeth, and welcome to Port Harcourt. Hand sanitizers and face masks are fast becoming essential commodities as Port Harcourt residents respond to precautionary measures against the spread of coronavirus, with the resultant scarcity and hike in their prices. Ijoma Ugweke reports.
Coronavirus is said to present with such symptoms as dry cough, runny nose, and high temperature, which also serve as mediums for transmission between persons. Since the outbreak of the disease, sensitization efforts have intensified for improved hygiene through the use of hand sanitizers, face masks, hand gloves, and the maintenance of social distance.
In school here, we normally use this, what you see me using in my hand here, to check the students as they are coming in, whether they are running temperatures, their temperatures are too high. We have, taught them, in area for them to be very, very careful.
After I'm attending to my customer, I make sure I wash my hands and provide a sanitizer also.
The demand push for masks has created scarcity and hike in the price of hand sanitizers.
I went to the bank this morning and I saw the security people that are attending to people covering their hands with hand gloves and then wearing the face masks.
Although it has become imperative to adopt these measures, some people are of the view that intensive efforts should be made by government to prevent the virus from finding its way into the state. In Port Harcourt, Ijomu Gweke, NTA News.
Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has inspected the GRA Junction location for the 4th flyover bridge under consideration by his administration to boost the traffic situation in the state. Ogedi Nyekwere reports.
Governor Wike was accompanied on the inspection by the State Commissioner for Works, Austin Chioma, senior engineers of the State Ministry of Works, and the project engineers of the construction firm. The team took a critical look at the location and possible designs of the 4th flyover bridge, as well as the prospects of the project to the state.
We're taking another look to have another 4th flyover, and so we went there to look at it. We're thinking that it should be at GRA Junction while they are going to Presidential. We were thinking, so we went there today to see how possible it is But we have not taken a final decision.
For some buildings likely to be affected by the construction, Governor Wike said will be evaluated and necessary compensations paid to the owners.
The problem we have has to do with compensation because where the roads are passing through, there are so many developments. But there's nothing we can do. The people have to make sacrifice. We have to send the ministry to come and value the property that are involved, so I will be able to pay the compensation, and then the construction will go out. But obviously, we're happy with what we're doing.
In Port Harcourt, Ogedinyekwe, NTA News.
The need for amendment and strict implementation of election finance law to smoothen the electoral process in the country has been stressed. INEC National Commissioner Professor Antonia Simbin raised the concern at a two-day technical review summit on INEC Campaign Finance Monitoring Report on 2019 general elections. Kelvin Samuel reports.
The summit, which brought together stakeholders and experts from INEC, IFES and ISES, was to review the draft report on campaign finance tracking for 2019 general elections in order to make recommendations that will help strengthen election finance law in the country. Declaring the summit open, the INEC National Commissioner, Professor Antonia Simbin, said finance tracking is very vital to democratic system of governance.
There's still so much more to be done, but for where we are now, we know that we have added value to what was there in 2015.
The question of the sources of funds and the usage of funds, if not regulated, clearly it will also undermine the democratic process.
We are here to ensure that the report is looked at and finalized.
With all the effort we have made, we'll be able to see that we have, a kind of campaign finance regime, that will promote internal democracy and also ensure, that the political parties, play a very important role.
The two-day summit, among other things, is to determine compliance with laws and regulations by candidates and political parties. In Uyo, Kevin Samuel, NTA News.
And that's it from Port Harcourt. It's back to you, Elizabeth, in Abuja.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Now, the Minister of Police Affairs, Muhammadu Megari Diginyadi, has condemned in strong terms the recent attacks on communities in Igabi and Giwa local government areas of Kaduna State. A statement from the press secretary to the Minister, Usaibovu Eisime, quoted the Minister describing the killings as act of cowardice and senselessness. He affirmed that the incident has further strengthened the resolve of Nigerian police and other security agencies to continue ongoing offensive operations against unrepentant bandits and enemies of Nigeria. As Nigeria grapples with the challenge of Almajiri roaming the streets, experts call for a holistic approach to end the phenomenon for socio-economic development of the nation. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria stated this while discussing ending Almajiri on the streets.
In recent years, the Almajiri system of education has become a source of concern to many stakeholders, especially the way the pupils roam the streets begging for alms to feed. The situation posed a serious threat to the security and socio-economic development of the nation. To address this trend, the state governments in the northern region are coming up with various strategies, including banning of street begging to end the menace.
His Excellency just 2 days ago inspected pilot schools, pilot boarding Almajiri schools, one in each of the senatorial zones, in partnership with the federal government, that they are going to take these schools these students that are not in any school, just roaming around the streets, and take them to these boarding schools. The state government has employed up to 8,000 new students just a couple of weeks ago. These new teachers, 8,000 of them, the whole purpose of this is to be able to send them to these Quranic schools, to be able to go and teach these kids the subjects that I listed, English, maths, and general studies.
We are integrating, the skills, that especially the vocational skills that enable them, to be self-reliant after they have completed, the Quranic schools which they are attending.
The initiative adopted by Kano state governments to regulate the Almajiri system of education and end the menace of street begging has been applauded by experts. However, they suggest a uniformed framework to provide for the children while preventing an influx of more Almajiris from neighboring states.
We must be able to reform the system and structure it in such a way that we have a shared responsibility between the parent, the government, and the community. Without any of this, I don't see a situation where you can continue with such approach for a long time.
It's irresponsible for any parent to come and say that, look here, I have just gone to Amalam, given him my child, and that's it. How he feeds, where he sleeps, isn't it, whether he's studying or not, and so on, it's not my problem. We have to change attitudes and behavior to a point that people should feel responsible for their words.
Executive Secretary, Universal Basic Education Commission, Dr. Hamid Boboyi, who recounted the classical role of Almajiris to the society in time past, hopes for a system reform. He suggested more funding for Almajiri schools and an integration of the schools as part of Nigeria's educational system. In Abuja, Ekemini Williams, NTA News.
Into disaster management, the National Emergency Management Agency NEMA says it has worked on modalities to streamline the distribution of food items and condiments to IDPs in northeast Nigeria. Director Relief and Rehabilitation of NEMA, Dr. Unimude Bandele, stated this in Yola. Ilyasu Ali Yakubu reports.
Since June 2017, Vice President Yemi Oshibajo launched the special door-to-door food intervention in the Northeast, in line with the federal government's determination to take responsibility of adequate feeding of IDPs in the zone. The outcry of inadequate food distribution became a thing of the past. A 50 kg of assorted food items is allocated to one household comprising a family of 4 monthly. The Fufure IDP camp in Yola has been part of this arrangement since inception. Aside the food distribution, the Fufure IDP camp enjoyed adequate water supply with 2 wing motorized boreholes and 4 hand pumps spread in the camp. However, 2 weeks ago, the IDPs staged a protest over inadequate supply of food items and delay in the distribution of the items. These visits of NEMA, Director, Relief and Rehabilitation, did not only announce regular distribution of the monthly food items, but also the scale-up of distribution with condiment and other items.
The government has to put his house in order, ensure that what is given to people in Maiduguri, in Yobe, and wherever we have IDP is exactly what we are doing here.
With the number of out-of-school children at the camps, observers say the state government must look inward in making education accessible to the children. From Fufure in Yola, Adamawa State, Ilyasu Aliyakubu, NTA News.
Thank you, Ilyasu. And next on our lineup is sports updates.